Have you ever wondered how to get HA improved in your network? Heck, what is HA? Find out next right here on IT Pro TV.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
That's right, we are getting started in HA, and the person that's going to help us to define what that means and how we actually improve that, Anthony Sequeira. Anthony, good morning, and hopefully you're going to tell us what we're talking about here.
Yeah, this one is not all that straightforward, I find. There's a couple of points here about HA, high availability, and we're seeing it more and more just that way. Capital H, capital A. And it's really something that we're going after more and more, especially with cloud technology. Cloud can really help us in the area of HA, but I'm getting ahead of myself already. Let's talk a little bit about what high availability means. And notice, wanted to remind myself to emphasize here, HA versus redundancy versus reliability. Okay. That's the thing that I find in the industry is often confused. First of all, redundancy. When we think redundancy, like how about redundant power supplies in a Cisco device? That's a great idea, right?
Yeah, multiple points, so we have no single point of failure.
That's right. One of your power supplies fails, the other one kicks in and starts helping you. Look at the redundancy that we have in this class right now. If I have a brain freeze, Ronnie starts talking. It's awesome. Redundancy is a component of HA. So that's the first thing I need you to make sure you can embrace. High availability is this massive like umbrella term. And one of the ways you get high availability, one of the ways is to do redundancy. So redundant power supplies, redundant links, heck, even redundant devices. You have like 4 routers acting as default gateways under a first hop reachability protocol type environment. That's redundancy. What is reliability? Reliability is not if it's there or not. That's a component of availability and high availability. Reliability goes deeper than whether it's there or not. It measures how well is it performing. So there is a big difference there. Ronnie can set me up with an environment where there's high availability, but he can let me know, look, if your main device fails, I'm going to do a backup device for you automatically, but your performance is going to suffer. So now I know in my head, okay, he's accommodating high availability, but he's sacrificing a little reliability to do that. So reliability, remember, I like to define it this way, and this is the most common definition. Just how well is it performing? There is a baseline of performance that we want. How are we hitting that? Are we hitting it or not? So that's the reliability component. So the next thing I wanted to talk about here with our students, Ronnie, is how to get HA. And one of the great ways to get HA is to use tried and true proven models. This reminds me of my dad building houses. So my dad blew me away when I was a kid because he built our house, like all of it. Wow. And I was just looking at this and it was like a 4,000 square foot home that he built in the woods of Massachusetts. And I was just like, how did he do it? But then as I got older, not to take anything away from him, I realized that he broke it down into layers, right? Like foundation, framing, electric, plumbing, and he used proven models for those different layers. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Now, before we get too far in that, why is it so important to use proven particular methods? When I can come up with whatever method I want to, Anthony, why would I care? If I just get it done, I get it done. What does it matter?
Yeah, you're probably going to run into things that don't work when you make it up yourself, and it can be really difficult to troubleshoot because you're like, well, I slapped it together and it works. But then when it's not working, you don't have any guidance on how to troubleshoot it. So if we stick with tried and true proven models, they'll probably have high availability built right in, and they'll even have like troubleshooting techniques well documented.
All right, so let's go back to that word or the words high availability again. Now, generally, when I've actually read about it, I've always seen it in terms of something like a service level agreement. Is that really what we're talking about, like that 99.9% of stuff or something like that?
Yes. Yes, there are a ton of different ways that we can measure HA.
Okay.
And the most common measurement is our 5 nines or 6 nines. And we're talking about the uptime.
Right.
And or if you're a glass half empty kind of person, the downtime. So like what is 5 nines? You're down like what, 30 seconds a year or something?
It's a little bit under 5.26 minutes.
Okay,
is what it
so
comes
the
down
5
to.
nines is in minutes.
Yeah.
When we get into like 9 nines,
Seconds.
we're in seconds. Yeah. And those are the kinds of uptimes that cloud services can bring to the equation. But the whole 5 9, 6 9, 7 9, that's not the only way to measure HA. Another very common measurement is like mean time between failures. And that's a cool one. Like, okay, we know this device is going to fail and it's going to be unavailable at some point. But if it's like 30 years between failures, we can typically live with that. So lots of different ways to measure it, Ronnie.
All right, so I didn't mean to interrupt your flow that we
No.
were doing there, but I think it's important that we set that into context because more
Absolutely.
than likely as people read, they might go, well, we've talked about it in terms of number of devices and we talked about it in the performance, but maybe that concept, especially when they read about it in the first time they see a service level agreement, they might not have that understanding of how that all relates together.
Yeah.
But thank you for helping us do that.
Yeah, no problem. And you didn't interrupt my flow at all. The only time my flow gets interrupted is when I'm rapping, when I'm in my rap flow. Yo, HA, it's the way to go. Don't interrupt my flow. Okay.
All right.
So there's services, Ronnie, too. You know,
Yeah.
oftentimes we think of hardware that's promoting HA, but there is services too that are going to help us. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of those. One of the ones we're going to look at together in this Encore show is IPSLA. The IPSLA is a service that can help us with high availability. So we want to target services that can actually help us in this regard as opposed to hurt us. Power supplies, we mentioned it. You often see those done redundantly to help with HA. Pathing through the infrastructure. Don't just have one path for traffic to take to get to HQ, have multiple paths. Do you know that we set up this incredible Tampa recording studio for me? And I want a big shout out to Brad at IT Pro TV who keeps driving down there to make sure my remote recording studio is awesome. And one of the things that we did there was we put in multiple paths to HQ. I've got a fiber optic connection to get back to HQ, and I've got old school DSL as an emergency alternate path through a different provider. This is going to help make sure that IT Pro TV South is always reachable. Switch aggregation. We've seen this evolve over the years. Ronnie, it used to be that you would have to stack the switches on top of each other and connect them via a special cable and special ports, and you made them act like one device. Oh my gosh.
Switch
this
stack.
this has gone really like futuristic. We've now got end of rack devices, and they're going to deal with like top of rack devices down the row of devices in the data center. So now the two devices are like one, but they're not even geographically next to each other. So there's all kinds of virtualization technologies that aggregate the components together.
All right, now, Anthony, on this next one here, storm control. I remember seeing something like this in switches, but is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, we are actually talking about the storm control capabilities that almost any Cisco device can do now. And techniques like that, I just pulled storm control up as an example of one of many built-in protections against a device going bye-bye because of something like just, a device on the network that is sending out way too much broadcast traffic. If we have a device on the network, if this was 1999 and Ronnie and I were teaching this class, we didn't have techniques like this, and your network could be brought down by some malfunctioning device. Now there are built-in protections against things like broadcast storm, thanks to some freaking out network interface card. And we have built-in protections like storm control and all the different devices that will just naturally take care of this, not be brought down by this problem. And as a result, the network has higher availability.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other different proven methods that we can talk about. So I normally think of things like the first hop redundancy protocols. Can that help address?
You better believe it. So one of the ways you can study this is you can actually use the layers of the OSI model as you study this. So you could go, all right, the physical layer. What are things we could do at the physical layer to improve HA? Obviously, 2 links are better than 1.
Right.
3 links are better than 2. 4 links are better than 3. So we can add redundancy that way at the physical layer. Then the next layer up, we have spanning tree protocol, which stinks. Rapid spanning tree protocol is better. Multiple spanning tree protocol, even better. Or how about no spanning tree whatsoever? Let's get the spanning tree out of the network. Sorry, Radia Perlman. Although, I shouldn't apologize to her, she helped invent a replacement technology called Trill, and Cisco took Trill and made it Fabric Path. So this is eliminating spanning tree protocol altogether. This helps us with HA at layer 2. At layer 3, I think like Ronnie does, first hop reachability protocols, which are like first hop redundancy protocols. I've been saying that wrong all show. So first hop redundancy protocols are like HSRP, VRRP, GLBP. We'll be covering those in this show together. That's great high availability techniques at layer 3. Back to layer 1, we have switches and firewalls and stuff where we can put 2 supervisor engines in, 2 brains of the operation installed right in the chassis. And if one of the brains fails, there's stateful switchover to the other brain, and the device never stops doing its job. So your end users out there never know there was this major catastrophic failure in the device because there was 2 brains and it just switched right over. In fact, there's a really funny term in Cisco networking in the UCS area where if you have a failure and the switchover doesn't work right, you get what's called a split brain condition. And that sounds something like really bad, right? And it is, because you don't have things synced properly when there's been a failure.
Now, let's talk about this acronym for a moment. NSF is non-stop forwarding.
That's right.
And the one that actually confused me when I first saw it on this slide right before the show, SSO, I was talking about single sign-on, but this is supervisor switchover?
Yes, this is stateful switchover.
Stateful
yep.
switchover.
And stateful means that, let's take a firewall example. That's a great example. So think about a firewall. You have this like VPN connection through the firewall that's going on, and then you lose your brain. And so it cuts over to the new brain, and it gives that new brain all of the state information about the connection. So nothing has to be rebuilt. So there's this total nonstop forwarding, not the dropping of a single packet. And something else that we look at with HA, Ronnie, all the time is convergence time. Like, okay, if there's a failure, how long does it take us to be back reliable again? And a lot of times with technologies like nonstop forwarding with stateful switchover, it's just instantaneous.
Yeah. So in the design, since we're talking about that in this particular section, let's just kind of take a few moments to actually think about it from the CCIE perspective as well. So Anthony, if we were to approach this as we're also preparing, let's say, for the CCNP lab, even though we know this helps qualify us to do it, is there anything that's in particular in this section that you go, hey, we definitely need to focus in?
Yeah, not really. I mean, what I want our learners to do at this point is just really understand these concepts from a high level.
Okay.
When there are things that you are going to need to configure, Ronnie and I are going to show you just how to do that. So don't stress about configuration right now. The other thing that I want to emphasize here too, if you're watching this show and you could care less about the exam, that's cool.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, we are, our goal is not to just have the exam covered. That's just like one of the many things that we're going to do together, Ronnie and I. But what I want to emphasize to you is this: in a production real world environment, of course you want high availability. And of course you want it at every possible layer, and you want everything to be highly available. What stops you? Your budget. So that's money, the only realistic. Yeah. At some point you're going to have to be like, all right, we got to cut down on the HA because we're running out of money. So this is almost always in production, the old cost versus benefit analysis that you must do.
Yeah, and I can see this going to the macro level now that we think about it, not only on these individual devices for a single network, but we can even have complete redundancy in data centers, right?
That's right.
Where it's just the complete network is actually redundant.
That's right. The cloud is something that has really brought that to the forefront. You can have this huge virtualized data center in your cloud provider in North America, and you could choose to duplicate that entire thing and drop it into Ireland. Too bad Zach's not here for his Irish accent. So you drop that into Ireland, and great. Now you have this redundant copy halfway around the world. It's just cost. That's really the big thing. Can you afford to do that?
All right, Anthony. Well, thank you again for helping us understand these particular topics as well. So go over the nature and the ideas here of high availability, what's actually involved in it. And as Anthony said, a high-level overview, understanding these design components are going to be key as we also prepare for that exam. And if you are just taking a look at it, just to actually understand, hopefully we've given you a good review of that as well. So signing off for IT Pro TV, I'm your host, Ronnie Wong.
And I'm Anthony Sequeira.
Stay tuned right here for more of your CCNP Encore Show.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.